I'm very honored this evening to introduce to you Dr. Duncan McCollum. And when I introduce him, we just did a radio show, and I'm going to introduce him the exact same way I did at the radio show, which is I'm honored to introduce Dr. Duncan McCollum, chiropractor, health expert, and now author, published author. Yeah. And he will be speaking tonight on a favorite topic of mine, and I'm sure though it may be a favorite, probably also a very frustrating topic for many of us, which we've titled, Why I Can't Lose Weight Despite Diet and Exercise. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. McCollum.
All right, well, thank you all for coming. This is really exciting to be here. You know, we have a mission, Carol and I and everybody in our office, really to make a difference in what's going on in the lives of people in our community. You know, our health, the health of the people in our country, we know is not very good. The healthcare system, there's all kinds of people trying to fix it, but you know, it really comes down to fixing ourselves. So we're not going to be able to get healthy till we take charge of our own health and do something about it. So this time of year, everybody's really interested in setting goals, you know, and getting ready for the new year. And, you know, usually by January 9th, everybody's broken their resolutions already. So that's why we're starting a little late, because it's never too late to start over again. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about. So there's some really amazing new information coming out about the body, how it works, the cell, inflammation, and how to get healthy. And we're going to go over some of the key components of that tonight, and I hope you find it interesting, and more important than anything, I hope you do something about it, okay? We're going to give you a couple different avenues to take at the end, being very passive, doing stuff yourself. Some other people might need more help and want to elicit us, and we're going to be talking about our Facebook group called The Rebels. And it's the Rebels, it's the Health Rebel, because if you're going to take care of your health, you've got to be a rebel to do it. So we'll tell you how that's going to work. We're going to have a group of people that want to change their health, and we're going to do some coaching in that group. So we'll tell you more about that as we go. I'll get out of the way. So when we take a look at what's going on in the area of toxicity and weight loss, these are actually twin mice, and there's a whole bunch of studies of, you all can hear me okay, right? I don't need to use that necessarily. There's a whole bunch of studies on twins, identical twin people, and I chose, Carol told me, put up the mice. So, you know, because what we find is they can actually take some stuff from this mouse and put it in this mouse, and it will get skinny. Or they can take some of the, and it's the bacteria in their digestive system. They can take the bacteria out of this mouse and put it in there, it will get fat. So it's the genetics that they're studying. It's the genes of our bugs in our body, called the microbiome, or just our bacteria, that are playing a huge role in our health today. And so we're going to go into that a little bit and talk about typically what we can do to overcome some of these problems. So, you know, how many people have tried a million different diet plans, and, you know, sometimes they work and then they don't work, right? You know, and one of the things we know, and my mentor is a guy named Dr. Daniel Pompa, and he's leading almost the whole globe in cellular detoxification. And by doing that, we're allowing the body to do what it's supposed to do, and it's supposed to be healthy. Our body is a miracle. We just have to get all of the distractions out of the way so it can do what it can do. But one thing that they know, and we're going to talk about something called diet variation. Anybody started a diet and it worked really good, and then about 3 months later it didn't work anymore? That's because you need to vary your diet. Sometimes people will take a new vitamin, and the vitamin made them feel great. And then about 2 months later, they're still taking them, but it doesn't seem to work anymore, because there's this thing called homeostasis. It means the body's going to adapt to the environment. So I don't care if you put all of the best vitamins in the world in your body. After about a couple months, Your body's just used to that. That's the new norm for it. Back in about 15 years ago, echinacea was very popular when anybody got a cold. And there was something called the wellness formula. And what happened is people would take the wellness formula when they were sick and it would work. But then they started taking it just as a normal thing, just to kind of take the prevention. And it never worked. It didn't work anymore because the echinacea now became ineffective in the adapted body. So it's really important to understand anything you do, you have to vary it. You know, when we were out chasing our food, we'd get a mammoth and we'd eat that mammoth for a couple months, and then we'd have to go dig some roots up and shiver by the fire and eat roots. And then spring would come and we'd have a whole bunch of green stuff to eat. And then by fall, the grain would be ready to eat. And our bodies got used to being challenged like this, and they did really well. Since World War II, we've been able to eat what we want, when we want, wherever we want, with whoever we want, as much as we want. And we just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the most important thing is that our bodies become inflamed. And the inflammation is causing disease. Pretty much all of the papers that you look at, chronic inflammation and chronic disease. This is the big talk of the town now. So here we're talking about weight loss, but it really is more than that. It's health, right? So Mayo Clinic has a story on the buzz of inflammation. John Hopkins, the same information coming out. Texas University, MD, chronic inflammation. MIT, 2 links of chronic inflammation to cancer. So this is so current, and things are coming out every few months. And you know, I'm very, very, very fortunate to be involved with a group of doctors around the country that are meeting weekly via Zoom, and we're going over case studies. So it's not just like it's just me in little old Capitola with my office saying, I can help you. I got an army behind me, and it's pretty amazing. It feels really good to have that. You've probably seen some of the magazines, Time Magazine and then the New Science of Health, talking about the secret killer, inflammation causing heart attacks, cancer, Alzheimer's disease. So this is current. Now, what's this have to do with weight loss? Again, when your body's overweight, it's inflamed. When it's inflamed, your body's actually not creating new healthy cells, but it's creating sicker cells. I'm going to step over here for a minute and just draw a picture of, whoa, holy moly. I must have done this lecture before. The magic is in you. See, I told you, it's written right here. If it's written, it's got to be true, right? So when we're young, healthy kids, our cells, let's say our cells are all a 10. They're very healthy. They're creating new cells, right? And those 10s make other 10 cells. We're vibrant, life's going well. Then we get a cold, we fall down, you know, we get some antibiotics, and then maybe, you know, we're eating a bunch of sugar and stuff like that. So these cells start to weaken, and maybe they become a 7. Well, those 7s now make new 7 cells. You know, your stomach cells are replaced every 5 days. Your whole digestive tract cell only lasts 5 days and another one pops up. So if you have chronic stomach problems that you're getting a new stomach in 7 days, lining to your stomach, shouldn't you be getting healthy? Your heart cells last 90 days. Boom, 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 they wear out. Your muscle cells last 120 days. So the problem is it that we're getting older, or is these cells getting weaker and they're making weaker cells? So pretty soon you're down here and your immune system's shot. Any bacteria or virus or bug in the world is going to get you, and it's going to cause you to be sick. So it's time for us to do something about it. Now, I mentioned health rebels because I really think that it's important for us to take charge of our own health. And I have asked a special person to come tell me, or tell you guys, her viewpoint on health and what she's done to get healthy. So I'm going to have Captain Montgomery come up here. She was a captain in the World Army Corps in World War II. Women's Army Corps, yeah. She's 96 years old, and she's pretty darn healthy. And so she has a story to tell. And it's on Facebook right now. Yeah. And so, do you want to talk to the mic? Talk to the mic. This is Beth Montgomery.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, this is a story that began several years ago. I lived in Florida, and I had a doctor who said, you have a high blood pressure. And I said, I don't think I do. And so in order to prove it to myself and to the doctor, I got a blood pressure instrument, and I took my blood pressure 4 times a day for 4 days. And I recorded all this, and it looked to me, looking at the figures, that I did not have high blood pressure. And so I wrote a letter and included this with my letter and said, I don't think I'm going to take your medication. And I did not. I did not take the medication.
Good for you.
And today, I'm here. I moved to California to a very loving family, and they put me on a diet of organic foods and also vegetables that they grow and fruit that they have on trees and so forth. So I have this organic diet now, and I have lost weight. I've lost 15 or 20 pounds. And as you see, I seem to still have my wits, and I'm healthy.
And she's
And
gluten-free, sugar.
Now, how's that for a mother-in-law? Huh? Yeah. Being a captain, I don't mess with her. She orders the house around. That's okay. But you know, that's what it's going to take for each individual here to be healthy. Just take charge of your health. You know, if your medical doctor says you need something, then maybe you do. But check it out. She checked it out. She's on one medication, a little bit of thyroid, and I doubt she even needs it. You know, my dad was 91 when he passed away, and he was on a tiny grain of thyroid that he'd been on his whole life. I don't know if he needed it or not, but maybe he did. So regardless, when we talk about getting the body functioning well, the body can heal itself. Your body's a miracle. So that's what we're going to talk more about. Thank you so much, Beth, for coming, and we call her Mom. So what we're going to do is talk about the cell now, though. Inflammation at the cellular level. Now, the cells are the life part of you. Okay, inflammation at the cellular level is what's causing disease. And I'm going to try to make this really understandable so that you can know what to do about it. So the cell wall is where it starts. And I'm just going to draw a picture here of what happens. So it will be a little clearer than that one, I promise. So let's draw a cell. Now the cell is, the wall's made of oils, and they need to be good oils. We want them to be healthy oils, not the trans fatty oils that we used to have in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the canola oil, the nickel-inflated canola oil with yellow dye in it, which is called margarine. The oils that turn rancid. You know, you want to start to get good coconut oils or medium chain triglyceride oils. Real butter, you know, organic. It's got to be organic, grass-fed ideally, and coconut oil and good organic olive oil. The reason we want to go organic is because if you don't, you're going to get tons of the glyphosate, which is Roundup. And there's some charts in the back before you leave. Look at them. It's pretty amazing. I meant to print one graph, and it printed the whole dossier that was given to the U.S. Senate by Dr. Siniff in 2016, and it used up all my wife's ink and all the paper in her printer, so I got in trouble. So I figured I better put it up and do something with it. So please look at it and go, wow, that was not a waste of paper. So anyway, we got the cell. Now, things go into the cell. There's a power plant in there, and it makes energy for survival. Then anytime you make energy, there's exhaust, right? We know that. So that exhaust is supposed to, it comes out into the middle of the cell. Then it's got to get out of the body. that are out of the cell and then out of the body. That's the way it works, and that's a very cool mechanism. What ends up happening, because of inflammation from toxins, from heavy metals, from the glyphosate, from all the chemicals that we get in our body, from the lead, the mercury, you know, there's something like, last time I looked at it, was 82,000 chemicals made by man. And you just imagine how long a guy or a woman sits there and with a microscope and makes that chemical. It might take them months and years, and your liver has to get rid of it in a heartbeat. That liver, this amazing organ in our body, has got to recognize this foreign chemical. It's never been on the planet in millions of years, and immediately get it out of our body. No wonder they're stressed. So you want them to be in good shape. Okay, so I'll give you an example. We all know about insulin and glucose, right? We know that insulin gets sugar into the cell so we can make energy out of it, so we can have life. So insulin is kind of a very polite hormone. Anytime sugar comes up, it goes, oh, allow me, and it opens the door so the sugar can go into the cell. And then the sugar makes energy, and then the toxic waste goes out. Well, when the cell walls get swollen and crusted with trans fatty acids and other types of problems, the receptors on those get ineffective. And anybody, I always think of my favorite movie, My Cousin Vinny, when they're in the jury and Joe Pesci tells the Southern people, goes, and you know how every good Southern, I think it was Alabama person, understands that when you get stuck in the mud, you get that mud flowing up, and everybody shook their head, you know, whatever. It's a bad joke, but anyway, in California, we get poison oak, and any good California's gotten poison oak because they've been playing out in the woods. If you know anybody that get their eyes swollen shut, the poison oak's so bad, you have eyes you just can't see, and then you just suffer miserably. Well, your cells get so swollen that they can't see or hear the hormones, and you suffer horribly, but it might be a slow, chronic demise. So instead of one insulin getting that sugar in the cell, this organ called the pancreas has to make more and more insulin to open that rusty sliding glass door. Pretty soon, that sugar in. That's a solution. But what would happen if we actually got the cell better so that you would need less insulin? Now here's a question. Do you think if insulin, which is a hormone, can't get in the cell, do you think estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and thyroid hormone might have trouble getting in the same cell? Yeah. Absolutely. So if you're a woman and you go to the doctor because you're of that age, or maybe you just have some other problems, and they give you estrogen, progesterone, or testosterone, they have to put so much in your body to try to push some in the cell, because that's the only way hormones act, is in the cell. So now you have a plethora of estrogen in your body. Now, do you think estrogen is when you have too much estrogen, does that sound like it's good for you?
No.
Right. It's actually, we know the Women's Initiative study back in 2001 found that the study they did on estrogen was causing breast cancer and endometrial cancer, so they quit the study. They were using something called Premarin, which is pregnant mare's urine. That's where they get the estrogen from. So my point is, and then T3 hormone, thyroid hormone, can't get in the cell either. So you go to the medical doctor, or they get some blood work, and they check one thing called thyroid stimulating hormone. If this number is okay, they say you're all right, or they might give you some medication. The point is, if the cell isn't working right, your body's tilting, and it just can't function well, and then things go wrong. And in this case, we're talking about putting on extra weight. Insulin is a hormone that stores fat. Guess what? The body is kind of pretty smart. It has another hormone that burns fat. It's called leptin. You probably haven't heard much about it. But you know, you have your brain, every fat cell in your body is supposed to tell your brain when it's got enough fat, and then the brain will listen to the leptin and stop you from eating. So hormones, it's a hormone issue, but you got to clean up the cells. Does that kind of make sense a little bit? You see that we've got somewhere to go. So the cell wall is made up of oil and water, and when it gets swollen, these little holes get plugged up, and those are the receptors for vitamins, minerals, all that kind of stuff. This is beautiful little image here is what's called the mitochondria. Anybody heard of mitochondria? Mm-hmm. Most people have. That's the power plant in the cell. When you are making energy in the cell and you can't get the toxic waste out of the cell because the same cell wall is crowded, guess what happens inside the cell with the toxic waste you're not getting rid of? It makes that cell wall sick. We know that it actually eats away the mitochondria cell wall, and the mitochondria will end up dying. Mm-hmm. Cancer starts in the mitochondria, by the way. Wow. That's where the science is showing that it comes from. So just like you can't get the cell wall inflammation, you can't get the hormones in, you can't get the toxins out either. So pretty important to get that cleaned up. Again, we're going to talk about that, but I want you to really get the significance. So there's two types of fuel that our body burns. One is sugar, the other is fat. And I'm going to throw out the word called ketones. Maybe you've heard of the keto diet. Right. So there's some pluses and minuses to every diet. But fat, this thing called a ketone, it burns like your gas stove. You turn that stove on and it's just cooking along there. Sugar burns like a smoky fireplace. It makes fuel, but man, if you open the door, that fuel that smoke comes out and chokes you. Mm-hmm. So protein and carbohydrates burn like sugar. So protein breaks down to sugar and burns ineffectively, okay? So just imagine driving down the road and you've got a hose in your exhaust pipe. Oh, I'm there. Hi. Hose in your exhaust pipe, and it comes out and it's in the cab and the window's rolled up, and you're driving down the road and that exhaust is just pouring into your cab. You wouldn't be feeling pretty good, right? You'd start to get stomach aches and unhealthy and sick. That's what happens with these cells. You're making energy, but you feel terrible. You start to get all these weird chronic named diseases, like chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia. All of that stuff is a body that's not eliminating toxins, and your body's is being the effect of it. So this is just another picture of the mitochondria showing the energy that goes in, and then the free radicals, which are the toxins that are going out. So that's where that term free radicals comes from. That makes sense to you guys, right? Yep. So now what happens in our toxic buildup? We have so many toxins in our environment. There's three major toxins. The number three top. Number one is heavy metals. The second, not in this order, the second is glyphosate. Everybody know what glyphosate is? It comes from Roundup.
Oh, yes.
Roundup, the glyphosate that they're spraying on the grains and they're spraying in our fields are destroying our digestive system. Look at those charts on your way out. Every chronic disease has gone up with the use of Roundup. Driving home to our house, you know that apple orchard where they sell apples? There you can see strips of dead grass along that apple. They're using Roundup on there. That's killing it. That gets into the root system. And don't take my word for it. Look it up. The Roundup is causing major problems. Yep. Heavy metals. Now we get heavy metals. Guess where we get lead from? The number one source of lead.
Deodorant.
Mother.
Oh, mother.
Yeah. 4 generations of lead gets passed down through the mother's blood and placenta. So when we have kids that are having trouble, we need to test the mother for their lead levels, because lead is stored in bone. And where, anybody younger than Beth, who's pretty young herself, has been exposed to the lead paint, lead gasoline. It comes in so many different things. And so number one cause of lead is your mother, 4 generations down. 280 chemicals they find in the umbilical cord of babies. Some of them carcinogenic and all this kind of stuff. Mercury, from our teeth, from our environment. San Jose has the largest mercury mine in the world that's buried, and there's parks on top of it, right, Carol?
Yeah, Quicksilver, Almaden Quicksilver Park.
Yeah.
On top of a mercury mine.
On top of a
Also
mercury mine.
fish.
And when the big waters last winter, they didn't want the reservoirs to get over 2/3 full. Really major thing, because then the water would get into the shafts of those mercury mines and more mercury would come out. Pretty crazy. If you look at, if you were to get the fish and game guide at Outdoor World and look at the fish in the lakes. They say you can eat 1 trout out of Lake Almanor a week. That's a safe amount. And they list every lake and how much fish you can have because of the gold mining days. They use mercury to pull the gold out of the ground. So, you know, I mean, it's okay. We just have to know what to do about it, right? If you lived in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and you wore contact lenses, guess what they put in the water that you put in your eyes? Mercury.
Oh.
How about when you tripped and fell down and
Oh, yeah.
Dad put some mercurochrome on your,
Yeah.
more mercury. So mercury clearly, it's okay, she didn't know.
There was iodine.
Yeah, so anyway, we need to know how to clean this up. But here's the problem, is in your digestive system, the glyphosate is known to break the cells apart in your digestive system. So these are the lining, this is your gut, and we're supposed to get vitamins and minerals coming through into our body for nutrition. The glyphosate breaks these junctions apart, and you get larger molecules that should never have gotten into your body getting into your bloodstream, causing inflammation, causing all kinds of problems. Bacteria is never supposed to cross this barrier here. Viruses can, but bacteria never can, but we're getting bacteria in there. So leaky gut, food intolerance, immune abnormalities, immune conditions, all this kind of stuff. So we need to clean that up. Now here's a really good slide about why diets don't work. So if you lose weight but you don't detoxify, your body's desire to survive is going to cause you to put on more weight because that's too toxic for you. Those toxins will now make you sick, so the body actually puts on weight to try to ward off disease. So see, fat cells are inert. Fat cells, they're not acting on your blood because blood's water soluble, right? So your body takes toxins and encapsulates it in fat and holds onto it and goes, if you burn this fat molecule, I'm dumping these toxins in you. Anybody ever known somebody that said, this year I'm going to get healthy? They go to the gym, work out, and immediately get sick? Known people to do that? They get a cold immediately? Happens a lot, okay? Because you start to break down those cells. And then, so what we want to do with weight loss is we're going to teach you about detoxifying so that you can lose weight and permanently keep it off, and then your body will be healthier. So I talked about the 3 top toxins: glyphosate, heavy metals, and molds. Molds are they're so insidious. They're probably one of the worst. They get into your brain. They're a lot more prevalent now because of the way people build. If you go by Aptos Park here, the new place they're building, you know, in Aptos Village, all of that wood, it's all particle board, and it's all been rained on, and they're going to cover up the sides, and some of that water's probably soaked into that wood, and there's going to be mold growing in there. You know, I mean, it's unfortunate, but we just aren't careful enough in the way that we take care of things. We get mold under our kitchen counters and this kind of stuff. You know, even in things like the Bible, they talk about mold, right? They talk about if you have mold in your house, you got to tear the wall down and build a new wall. If it comes back, burn the house and everything in it, because it's how bad it is. It's very, very insidious. So we know how to help you get these things out of your body. Now, some people are going to be more tolerant than others. You know, there's something inside the cell called DNA. You guys have heard of that once or twice, right? Yeah. So DNA, our cells have, each cell in our body has 2,200 genes. You know, one gives us blue eyes, one brown eyes, blonde hair, this type of thing. But it's a gene for breast cancer, colon cancer, Alzheimer's. We now know that there's 7 genes in the cell that will trigger Alzheimer's, rheumatoid arthritis. Some people have rheumatoid factor in their blood, but they never get the problem, because you can get 3 different types of diseases from that. You can get ankylosing spondylitis, rheumatoid arthritis, and psoriatic arthritis. How come some people get one and not the other? Because it got triggered. So And what happens when the toxins get in here, they act on the gene and they turn on those bad genes. So what makes sense? If you've got stuff going on in your body and it's turned on bad genes and it causes symptoms, should you spend the rest of your life trying to cover up those symptoms? Or try to get to the cause of it and reverse it? Nobody tells you can turn off the genes. Okay? They just, well, you know, the pharmaceutical companies clearly have a vested interest in that, and you know, that's the way they are, man. And if you buy into it and you take the drugs, then you get what you get. But if you educate yourself like Beth did, and you go, I'm going to buy a blood pressure cuff and see if this is the way it is, then you might live healthier, because we know what, you know what chronic use of Advil causes, besides kidney failure? Alzheimer's disease. It's being linked to Alzheimer's disease. Almost chronic use of all medications are now being linked to Alzheimer's disease. And dementia. Don't trust me, just look it up. Mayo Clinic, everybody talks about it. So what happens when you have a gene, every gene has a little cap on it. Like, you know, a little hoodie type thing. The toxins come along, when they knock that cap off, that gene's going to express itself. And it expresses itself in certain types of diseases. So we want to clean up this environment and get the body to heal. Now this is the cool part. This is the real cool part, how the body heals. So there's a book, first and foremost, we're going to talk it right near the end here about fasting. And that's one tool. Now most people think, oh, I'm never going to do that. Well, this guy, Dr. Jason Fung, wrote this book on fasting. And there's a lot of different ways to do it. But what happens when you fast, you starve off the weak cells. So what they know is when in times of famine, our ancestors, they lived, but they came out strong and healthy. So in times of famine, your body's going to be very, very particular about the cells that they keep alive and the one they get rid of. It actually destroys old white blood cells that have bad memories. It gets rid of bad heart cells, bad digestive cells, and it also kills all the bacteria and fungus in your body that shouldn't be there, because there's no place to feed it. So Dr. Fung is amazing guy that talks about this. And I'm going to skip ahead on the slide a minute and then come back, because this is really important. So this is Dr. Jason Fung, and he's a nephrologist. And he's the guy that came up with that.
Nephrologist is?
Kidney doctor, thank you. And then this gentleman here, Dr. Walter Longo, he has this book here called The Longevity Diet. He discovered that after 30 hours of fasting, your body starts to create its own stem cells. Isn't that wild? You guys heard about stem cells being replacement? We know now that in 30 hours of fasting, your body will start to produce its own little infant stem cells. This is cool, because when they inject your organ with stem cells, those stem cells go and rebuild what it's supposed to rebuild. Nobody can control them. Carol used to work at a heart clinic where they injected stem cells into the heart to rebuild the heart. Pretty soon they found that the cells weren't staying in the heart. They were going to the arteries and repairing the arteries. They go, no, we want it in the heart. Stem cells are going, sorry, the arteries need to be repaired. So these little guys know where to go. You know, it's pretty amazing. Yeah. So by day 4, you've got so many stem cells, and then by day 5, there's a plethora of them. So then you want to feed them. So this is the fountain of youth. Your body can start to rebuild itself. Now, this other gentleman here, Yoshinori Ushomi, won the Nobel Prize in 2016, the Nobel Prize in medicine for this. He discovered something called autophagy, autophagy. Phagy means to eat. Auto, eating yourself. So what happens when you fast, he discovered that the body's going to eat the bad cells. And he won the Nobel Prize for this. Wow. So you want to renew your body? You got to learn how to fast, and you got to learn how to let your body get rid and dump the bad stuff, because it knows how to do it. Okay? Mm-hmm. And the sooner you do it, the younger you are, the better you are, because it's going to help your body rebuild itself. So we're going to talk about doing a fasting thing and something we can do together here. Very gentle and very easy to do. One thing we want to understand is how our body's being affected by toxins. Because some people have a lot more problem than other people. And there's some testing that we do, and I put some stuff on your chair for this, but the meta-oxy redox test, what this does is it tells us how inflamed your cells are. So it's a really important test to find out just how bad your cells are how much they look like this, how swollen are your eyes. Because we want to start to change the swelling in the body. We want to detoxify the body so that it can do what it's supposed to do, which is the miracle that it is, that it will heal itself. You got to give it some time. Another test we do is by a Dr. Shoemaker, the leading authority in the world on mold in the body. And he created a test using the optic nerve. It's the only nerve that gives us direct access to the brain, because mold loves to hang out in the brain. And so he has a contrast study that we do in our office that will allow us to assess how much your brain is being affected by heavy metals and molds and other chemical toxins.
Cool.
So there's no perfect test, but it definitely gives us a really good idea.
A marker.
Yeah. The other thing is that we test for heavy metals. So, and now, you know, some people do the hair analysis, and there's a lot of other ways to go. There's no perfect test ever, but by far, science shows the best one is what we do, a urine challenge test. So we do a test where we have you take some supplements that will actually stir up the pond, so to speak. So if I were to test water in a nice, cool, beautiful pond, and I took some water off the top, it would look pretty pure. But that layer of silt down there, if I mixed that whole thing up and then tested the water, I'd find some sediments in there. So the way we do the heavy metal test is we have you do what's called a provoking test. We mix that stuff up so we can get a real clear idea of the heavy metals, the leads, cadmium, mercury, bismuth, all these other things that can cause trouble. Now, what's the big deal about heavy metals? Not only do they get inside the cell, and they cause they open the door for parasites and molds and bacteria to get in the cell. So you can't get those clean without getting rid of the heavy metals. So you got to know what you have. And so those are the 3 tests that are going to help us determine, number 1, again, you maybe all want to be slimmer or you all want to seem healthier, but you really want to be healthy for the long haul. You want to make sure you have the mental clarity, the movability, and if you start taking the medications, we know it's a slow path to Alzheimer's disease. I mean, what the heck good is it if we're going to be alive, but we don't even know we're alive? So let's start to take a look at what we can do to clean these things up. So, well, that's Dr. Shoemaker's test. Let's see what else we got here, because I skipped around again. So now, intermittent fasting. This is something that I'm going to challenge you to be part of. We have a group. It's called the it's called the Rebels, and Beth is the head of it. It's called the Health Rebels, and it's on Facebook, and it's a closed group. And what we do is if you want, you can join that group, and then we're going to walk you through intermittent fasting. I'm going to tell you tonight how to do it, but you can be part of that group, and every day I'm going to be putting, either Carol, myself, or Dr. Dawson are going to be putting out little tidbits on how to go through this intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting was put together by Dr. Fung, and also this guy, Dr. Walter Longo, agreed with him because of the stem cells that are going to be created, as well as Dr. Usham, however you say his name, who knows that we're going to eat up the bad cells when we fast. You know how much energy it takes to digest food 3 times a day? All of the amazing amount of your energy that's going in there and digesting that hamburger or those bagels or those glyphosate-covered meals. So by doing an eating window, what we're going to do is we're going to teach you how to have a 13 to 18-hour eating window, and it's pretty simple. You go to bed at night, you wake up in the morning, you don't eat till lunch. Now, It's going to go against everything that you've been told by Western medicine, but look at their results. And if you know, I found out the first person to say if you do the same thing and expect a different result.
Right.
You know who that was? Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
Yeah. So interesting. So we're going to do something different, and we have the studies to show that it works. So an 18-hour window. Now what we're going to do is we're going to teach you how to have, we're going to have you have some good oils in the morning. So you can have some coconut oil, some butter, some raw cream. You can put it in coffee if you like. And we'll go through that tomorrow morning. I'll start tomorrow by showing you Facebook Live, if you want to be part of the group, how to do this. Then we're going to walk you through different things, and you have some information on some of the foods that you can eat. We basically want you to get away from the bad oils, the sugar and carbs, and eat less often. Sometimes you don't have to eat less, just eat less often, because your body gets so, everything suffers when you digest. You know, your immune system goes down, your healing ability goes down, your brain function goes down. So if we can get you to eat less often and only have a short eating window, your health is going to be remarkable, and you're going to burn calories. You're going to start to burn fat. It's going to burn into ketones. And guess what your brain loves to burn most? Carbohydrates or fat? Fat. It loves to burn ketones. It loves to burn fat. In fact, cancer cannot burn a ketone. Cancer cells only burn carbohydrates. So we're going to teach you how to do a diet that's predominantly fat, good healthy fats, and then less on the protein and the carbs. You know the paleo diet? Probably people feel good at it for a while, but we know that there's brand new science that says if you eat too much protein, it's going to cause this particular pathway in your body to speed up your aging, right? I won't give you the name because it's boring, but you know, it's there, we know. Sure, you should eat a lot of protein every once in a while because it helps your body repair. But if you eat it all the time, your body's going to start to age. So diet variation is important. Even the keto diet, if you're just eating that one way, straight across the board, it's not going to be good for you. You need to vary your diet. We're going to teach you how to do that. So no grains, no sugar, no alcohol, no fruit for while you're doing this beginning part. You can take some later. And if you take supplements, eat them in your window. You know the average American eats 17 times a day? They put 17 times they're putting a nut in their mouth, right, Arlene? 17 times a day. As soon as you put something in your mouth, your brain starts going, your insulin starts producing, and when you get insulin in your body, we have insulin resistance. That's the whole thing we're talking about. Your body has this insulin resistance. Guess what causes Alzheimer's disease? Anybody know? Insulin. Type 3 diabetes. You may have heard of it. That's called Alzheimer's disease. Insulin gets through the barrier into your brain, and it lays down this protein plaque like on your teeth. And that plaque stops the synapses from synapsing, and it leads to Alzheimer's disease. So you've got to close up the gaps, keep the insulin down, stop eating so much so you don't have insulin chronically in your body. And when, unfortunately, people that are on diet, who are diabetics, who are chronically taking insulin, guess what they're doing? They're going down a path. You know that in 1996, the National Institute of Health made a very big statement. They said most diabetes can be reversed with diet and exercise alone. Anybody ever hear that?
Yep.
Most diabetes can be reversed with with what I just said.
Yep.
Diet and exercise alone.
Even heart disease.
Yes, of course. Yeah. But now when there's new TV ads, and the ad says, take this for your diabetes along with diet and exercise. If you take this drug along with diet and exercise, you can reverse your diabetes or handle it, put it under control. But how many doctors actually, and maybe they are, and I hope so, they say, I'm going to give you this medication for your diabetes, but I insist that you change your diet, and I insist that you exercise, and if you come in next month and you haven't done that, I'm taking you off the medicine. Isn't that what I think that's what I'd want. That's what Beth would ask.
Yeah.
You know, our health rebel #1. She'd go, hey, I don't want to be on this all. There's a whole other story about prednisone. We'll do that on Facebook Live. You guys will laugh when you hear this one. It's pretty funny. So take your supplements in a window of time, and then we go through some other steps. But we'll go through that. Now what's going to happen, your body's going to start to adapt. It's going to start to burn the fuel that you have sitting here stored, and your body's going to start to feel better because your brain's going to feel better. I just did a 5-day water fast at the first of the year. Right, honey?
I test, he did.
How'd I do?
I thought he did amazing. I was in awe. I was waiting for him to crack. He didn't.
It was
No,
amazing.
he did not. I was so impressed. He set a good example.
I have the best energy. I'm still coming off of it. The best energy. My mental clarity was much better. She told me that right away.
I did. I said, "Come on, you're sharp. Your mental is more sharp." No. Not that you weren't before, but you know.
So then she started asking me to do math problems, and I was never good at math. No, just kidding. But but what I know is by day 3, I was creating my own stem cells. By day 4 and day 5, they were all over my body. I felt great. Some of the people, we did it, there were 2,000 people that did this fast with Dr. Pompa, who's my mentor, on Facebook. And there were people that would have aches and pains turn on, and you know what that was. Ever had an injury that when it was healing, it was painful? And Dr. Pompa would coach them and go, look, your body's healing. Allow it to heal. Go through that healing crisis as the stem cells are going in there and, you know, they're hammering and sawing and chewing up all the bad dead tissue. And so it can replace it with good tissue.
Can I say one thing? No.
This is Dr. Pompa here, and he's a leader in...
We want to hear her.
Go ahead,
No, I just wanted to say one thing.
yeah.
And that is that, you know, you don't jump into the 5-day water fast. I mean, he's been doing intermittent fasting for a while, so it does sound kind of scary, but your body gets used to it, and you get used to it mentally when you introduce it gradually, right? That's all I wanted to say, just in case anybody was thinking,
Yeah, I never thought I would want to do a fast of any kind. I'm 61 almost 62 years old. I'd never gone a day without food unless my mom locked me in the closet or something like that. So, but because I'm studying with this amazing guy, Dr. Pompa, and his story is amazing in itself. This guy hangs out with all these guys. He's interviewing all of the leaders in the world, and we just were on a conference call with him, Carol and I were today, about the newest research about this little thing called the cell wall and how important it is and how it is the most intelligent thing in the human body is this individual cell wall. I mean, I won't go into it, but it's pretty amazing. So if we can get those cell walls healthier, our bodies can get healthier. They know what to do. They just don't need any interference. So we got to get rid of the heavy metals, got to get rid of the molds, we got to get rid of the glyphosates, and kind of as important, stop taking in the stuff, the inorganic food, the stuff that's sprayed. You got to start eating correctly. Beth was, when she first moved out here a year and a half ago, she was always had her walker with her everywhere she went, right? It's like, I'm not moving without my walker. No, she just goes, oh, no, I don't want that thing. And we're around her, we're careful,
Sometimes,
But, it's just that the body knows what to do. At 96 years old, it can do it with you guys. Let's just do it.
Wow.
What do you say?
You're here.
So here she is. This is join the Health Rebels. And what I would ask you to do, there's some of the pieces of paper, there's this little thing that Maria wrote up for me that shows you how you can go on Facebook. You don't have to friend me. You can go on and ask to be part of the closed Rebel book. There's nobody's going to try to sell you anything in here. Carol and I run the whole thing. It's only to give you information. You can ask questions. Somebody else is going to have the same question. If you're not on Facebook, we'll do it another way. But our goal is really to serve you and give you as much information as we can.
Do you mind if I
Come on up.
tell my weight story?
Yeah, why don't you come up, Carol?
So I am one of these people that's done every diet known to God and man. And I'd done Weight Watchers. I'd done Weight Watchers. I'd lost about 10 pounds. And then, I know the science behind it now. I couldn't explain it then, but I gained all the weight back plus some.
Yep.
And I did the point system. And I plateaued and I couldn't break the plateau. Then I did paleo, and paleo was awesome. I lost 15 pounds, and then I got really sick. Right, I was sick before paleo, and I was using paleo to try and get better, and then I got sicker, right, after I lost the weight I wanted, and then I went back and was trying to put paleo into my normal lifestyle, and I got sicker than I was even before, and that's a whole different story. But anyway, what happened with this, which is really interesting, when Dr. McCollum mentioned the word fasting to me, I was like, I don't fast. Never have, never will, ain't gonna do it, right? And so I just eat healthy. So I got myself, I was kind of like a hybrid organic, you know, depending on the food, I'd either eat organic or not. So, and you know, I had my chocolate fixes, and I had little things that I'd sneak and that were not quite good for me. But I decided to just focus on eating healthy and really fixing how I ate before I started the fasting. And that's why I wanted to tell you this story, because not everybody will want to jump in right away to 13 to 18 hours. So I just focused on starting out. I wanted to be 100% organic, gluten-free, and sugar-free. I had never been able to be gluten-free, never been able to be sugar-free my whole life. I had tried it many times before. But I found that with the tips that we're going to be giving here, that it was so much easier to do by just changing my thought process and learning how to exchange, right? I never really figured out how to do a right exchange. So once I understood how I could get rid of the sugar by exchanging other things that were just as sweet but didn't have sugar in them, then I weaned myself. I didn't go cold turkey. I weaned off, and today I'm sugar-free. The same thing happened with gluten. For me, Mom knows, when I was a kid, Mom would buy Pepperidge Farm whole wheat bread. You remember this?
Absolutely.
And I would sit in front of the television, and I would eat the whole loaf of wheat bread she had just bought.
Wow.
And then she'd come in and yell at me because she had just bought the bread, and I'd eat the whole thing. I had a wheat addiction, which was a sugar addiction. I could eat a whole bag of Oreo cookies.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was unbelievable. So I had never been able to get off sugar. Once I understood how to exchange the sugar, the same thing happened with gluten, because obviously the two are connected. And the key for me was finding the right brand. It was such a simple solution. Finding the right brand of gluten-free product that tasted like gluten, that then I could do the exchange. And that's where Dr. McCollum and my sister Elizabeth came in. They kind of trained me and taught me, and because they had been eating organic way before I even tried it, and gluten-free, and all of a sudden I learned these brands, and that'll be part of what we'll be doing the Facebook group too. There's actually, I just this morning posted a whole PDF that just lists out all the different brands of that you can actually be buying that are all in this area, different stores here. Not just for gluten, but for sweets and everything else, for oils and everything. So if you just start thinking about the tips that you're going to learn in here. So I did that. Then I started feeling a lot better, and I was also going through a detox thing. But I started feeling a lot better, and then I thought, you know, I wonder if I can do this intermittent fasting thing. Here's the trick. Stop eating at 7 o'clock at night, and then what time do you wake up in the morning? Just like Dr. McCollum said, you've already finished the fast. You fasted overnight, right? So if you finish at 7 and you're up at 7, you've now completed 12 hours. Do that one day and praise yourself. And then he had up on that slide 13 to 18 hours, and just start building. You'll be amazed with the tips that he has about what the coffee and the oils and everything you can have, which actually stave the hunger. See, we haven't talked about hunger, but your hunger will go away too. You'll be hungry for about, we tested it, was a hunger between 14 and 18 hours once the oil has been, I think, burned. You'll hit that 14, 18 hour mark. But if you do it the way we're talking about and build it, your hunger will go away. His hunger was totally gone on the 5-day fasting, on the third day or something?
Day 3, very, very low hunger.
So if you can, so once you get comfortable with intermittent fasting, once I put intermittent fasting in, I did it gradingly. I got to a point where I now do it 6 days a week. The weight was falling off of me, and I was eating a lot of food between that window. I was not hungry at all. I was stuffing myself with good, healthy food that you'll learn. But the weight just started to fall. I wasn't doing anything. I've lost 16 pounds. And I tell you, I haven't been hungry. All I've done is followed what he's going to teach you in the Health Rebels. Well, we both will. I guarantee you that weight is going to start coming off. And it's just because you're going to do it the right way. Right?
And plus your health improved dramatically too.
Yeah, well, that's a whole different story. But I don't have any of my chronic fatigue symptoms gone too. So, and I work for, as he said, a stem cell place. So I saw the miracle of these they are little doctors. That's the scientists say, the little doctors, Carol, they just go in and they repair everything.
So some of the stuff you got, there's a page that says sections on it. And if you take time to fill this out, if on any of those sections you score 3 or more, you're toxic in that area. Okay? Just a little self-quiz you can take. And so that's that one. And then we also gave you some good ideas on eating. So this is some of the things, the fruits, the fiber, the things that are good for you to eat. Some of you are going to go, I want to be tested. Some of you are going to be fine just going home and starting intermittent fasting. But I hope that you at least have some curiosity to see, gosh, where does my future look like? What do I look like toxicity-wise? I don't want to get any of those diseases, or I already am in the disease process. How do I turn them around? So there's a couple different choices here. The first one up here on our new patient testing, if you, we're going to go through a neurotoxic questionnaire, do the visual acuity test, the urine test, and the adrenal stress test. It's normally $200, and if you decide to do it today, it's 99 bucks. So that's one. If you decide you want to do the heavy metal test, and this is a really amazing test, I highly, not everybody necessarily needs it, but some people want to know. I wanted to know. And people that are chronically sick that just can't get over stuff should know. It's normally, well, you can see the prices there. The gut zoomer it just looks for all of the bad bacteria in your gut, looks for parasites and stuff. This just so happens that once a year, it happens to be next weekend, we're doing our Patient Appreciation Day for chiropractic. So all of you have this little thing here, and in here are forms. I think there are 3 or 4 gift certificates, complete exam, full set of digital x-rays, and a spinal evaluation, and a second-day report to look at your x-rays at no charge. It just happens to be this week. So take advantage of that. There's some in here to give your family, because your nerves are control everything. So normally that's $399, so that just happens to be included today. And then if you want to do them all, we have a special there. So talk to the girls in back if you decide to do one of those, or if you have any questions. Yeah, and oh yeah, and is there a place that they're going to put down that they want to get on? You guys can write. Maria's going to have a way for you to just write down, I want to be part of the group. So you can do it at home, but it's probably easier just to tell her, give her her email. She'll get you hooked up. I promise you, we're not going to put anything, nobody's going to try to sell you anything. It's only us trying to give you information.
So you just talked about this group?
Yeah.
Yes. And I already signed up with it.
Oh, good.
When
You
I
did
first
it?
saw it, I saw it. So I
Oh,
just
good.
Before you started talking.
So Carol and I are doing a radio show every month now on KSCO. One person heard it, Karen, you heard it and decided to come in. That was awesome. So it was fun, huh? Listening to us? Yeah?
You listening to your show?
Doing the show, yeah, that's what made you decide to come.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was driving to the beach and I pulled over and had to keep listening.
Oh, that's
until it was
nice.
over.
Oh.
Yeah, both of you.
That's awesome. So we weren't like must drag it on, you know, little girl.
No.
Good old time on that radio show.
Wanna go now?
So the next one's
Yeah, I
going to be
know.
February
Really late
10th,
line.
and at 3 to 4 p.m. we're going to be talking about heavy metals pretty much exclusively. What are they? How did I get them? And how, more importantly, how do I get rid of them? So, you know, tune into that show. We'll be putting it out on our group as well. So let's see if there's anything I forgot. Oh yeah, there might be, there's like 3 ways to take advantage of this evening. Number 1 is you're in good shape, you just want to lose some pounds, you're going to try the intermittent fasting yourself. I would just get to be part of the group and you can watch it. You don't really need any guidance, you're just like, you know, checking it out. Others of you are interested in it, but you think you're going to need some help. You have some kind of chronic health problem, and or you just go, I want to be tested first, then that's where you're going to fall. There's other people that their health is really not good. They're chronic disease, they've got some, yeah, they have all kinds of different diagnoses, or they're on top a lot of medications, then they're going to need to be coached. So whichever one of those you fall in, we're here for you. And there it is. Your body's a miracle. It's a fountain of youth. We now know that that's where it's been the whole time, your body's ability to make its own stem cells. So I think that's it. So it's 8 o'clock. We said we're going to go to 8:30, so we'll be here to answer some questions. And you know, please take advantage of any of this stuff we're doing. If you want to come in and get the chiropractic exam, the digital x-rays, and Dr. Dawson is awesome. Chiropractically, we both work with Dr. Dawson. I always say, hey, he graduated this century. That's pretty good. You got somebody who's new and fresh, and he knows bones better than me. There's still 206, right? Yeah, Karen?
I have a question about gluten. Why
Yeah.
is it that this has become such a big deal now, when it wasn't through all those years that people lived on bread and cereal and all that? Is it because of the glyphosate?
That's two things, and that's a great question. In 1970, Dr. Blaylock won the Nobel Prize, I think that's his name, for working to end world hunger. And he was in Mexico City hybridizing wheat so it could produce more than it was normally producing. So he got it to produce 7 times the normal yield. But remember that song, The Amber Waves of Grain?
Mm-hmm.
Now it's stubby stalks of grain, because they hybridized it down so much, and they altered the genetics of it so much that our body can't even recognize it. So by changing the grain as much as they did, that the glutens that got created, our bodies have been around for many, many, many centuries, right? And all of a sudden, this mainstay for us has been altered so dramatically. And also, back in maybe a century before that, we didn't have grain 24/7. We only had it in the fall, and maybe it would run out by the end of winter. And then we would eat a different type of food. So that's where diet variation comes in. A lot of times when you get too much sensitivity to food, you stop eating it for 3 months, and then your sensitivity goes away, you can eat it again. But we can eat what we want, when we want, wherever we want, you know, all that. Now add glyphosate. The commercial farmers are spraying the grain with glyphosate to dry up the green leaves so they can harvest the grain better. And they've actually and Monsanto has actually created a gene inside the wheat that will put up with more glyphosate. It won't die with glyphosate. So they can spray more glyphosate on the grain and not kill the plant, but kill everything else. Also, what we know, and probably more than you wanted to know, but because of that gene that we've been ingesting, the bacteria in our digestive system now borrowed that gene, and the bugs in our gut are making pesticides in our gut.
Oh.
We have our own manufacturing plants. Molly.
I have also a question about gluten, because you recommend no grains, but there are gluten-free grains like rice and quinoa.
Yeah.
Are those okay to eat on the
Yeah,
diet? Or?
the ancient grains are fine.
Okay.
Now, you know, and then also in Europe, they don't allow glyphosate. And so the grains that you get from, if you can get wheat and stuff from them, you're good. You know, and a lot of the nut flours are really good. The nuts are amazing. The nuts what we were listening to today, the nuts are one of the highest sources of omega-6s.
Walnuts,
Tree nuts.
pecans.
All tree nuts, not
Yeah,
peanuts.
yeah, you're right, tree nuts. And they actually help the cell wall. That's the biggest thing you're going to be hearing in the next several months, perhaps, is how healthy this, how you need more omega-6s and less omega-3s.
So the other thing I know that you do is you put heavy whipping cream in your coffee every morning and butter. And
Yeah.
that. What I know about dairy is that it is mucus forming in the body. It creates an environment for cancer to grow. It's very inflammatory.
Yeah.
So how do you?
Well, there's, if you use organic whole cream,
Okay.
it's a live food.
Okay.
When you use anything pasteurized, it's a dead food. Okay? So we use grass-fed butter and or, we don't always use organic, I mean raw, but you should.
Kerrygold, grass-fed.
And some people are less tolerant, but see, whipping cream is pure fat. There's no, when you get half and half, it's half milk and then it turns, that
And you can
that
always do
milk half
coconut
turns
oil.
into sugar.
I do coconut oil.
Yeah, there you go. That'll keep you off the dairy
Yeah.
the same
Yes.
way.
What about
Or
like
the
the
raw butter.
almond milks?
Almond milks is awesome. Yeah, that's
almond
definitely
milk's
good.
Well, I don't drink anything sweet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but
I
often,
even drink my coffee black. I don't
Wow.
all right.
How did you manage that?
So, yes, Karen.
Sorry.
No, please.
I have a question about thyroid.
Yeah.
Because that is an issue with
Yeah.
weight loss. If you have the antibody, you know, the high antibodies.
Yeah.
With Hashimoto's, I'm
Right.
assuming that's what it does. What is that all because of toxicity and that's really that's the root problem?
That's what they're looking at. It's basically Hashimoto's is an autoimmune disease. Autoimmune means the body's eating itself. It means whatever's going on in the cell isn't working correctly. And what they are seeing, and Dr. Pompa talks about this all the time, is turning, once you get the cell wall healthy, those just like the food sensitivity, when you eat too much gluten, you get allergic to it, you stop eating it, your sensitivity goes down. Those antibodies will go away as well with the proper guidance and watching it and getting the cell healthy, especially when you do some fasting, because then you get new stem cells, they're kicking it out.
So you guys have worked with people on Hashimoto's?
Yes,
Successful.
definitely. Go ahead.
Can you review the intermittent fasting again?
Sure.
18 hours, don't have anything, so not water, not anything.
Yeah.
And
No.
then you have the no
No,
grains,
water's up
no.
there.
No,
You
no.
can have water?
Yeah, you can have water.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I guess that's dehydrated.
one
yeah.
thing I wanted to say when you were talking, people are always worried about organic food costing more, right? You're only eating 2 meals a day. So you just saved 1 meal. So there you go, buy more high quality food. And also you're gonna find when you're doing intermittent fasting, you don't eat that much. You're not eating gobs of food. Your body just doesn't want it. It can survive on less. So what we do in the intermittent fasting is, like Carol said, don't eat after bedtime. Be kind of hard to eat after bedtime. After 7, maybe not if you walk in your sleep. But then ideally, when you wake up in the morning, what we recommend is some kind of good oil. Because the oil is going to, like you can take a tablespoon of coconut oil, you can put it in your coffee. Coffee's good because or you can put in the butter or the cream or the MCT oil. There's a lot, ghee, whatever you want. That's going to jumpstart the motor. Any of us who've been around a while, when our car ran out of gas, you'd have to pour water or gas in the carburetor to start it, right? So when you put oil in your body first thing in the morning, it starts the fat burning machine going. So you go into something called ketosis, and there's real good safe numbers you want to be in. And when you go into that ketosis, your body's just burning fat, and your brain loves it. You feel so much better burning fat. So now come 12 o'clock, eat a reasonable exchange diet. You might have a salad with some protein on it. Or, you can still have wheat. I mean, organic, gluten-free wheat. You can have the breads if you want it. The one we have is Canyon.
Yeah, there's Canyon, there's Rudy's, there's a
The
few.
list is in the group.
Yeah, Canyon's the best.
I have a PDF I was supposed to.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, so in this fast, you can have water,
Yes.
coffee in the morning,
Yeah.
and what type of oils?
I think the list is, we have the list here. I think this list right here.
Do you want me to say exactly what I have?
Yeah, why don't you say that, Carol?
Can you have
So
tea?
when,
Yeah.
So when I'm a tea drinker and a coffee drinker, so you want to, I do coffee in the morning and tea in the afternoon. So just make sure that your coffee and your tea are organic. Any kind you want, just make sure they're organic. Now, there's two local, Deluxe has an organic coffee there is what I drink. It's called Kicking Horse Coffee. It's in the coffee aisle. They actually have a sale on it. I was there today, $10.99 a pound. And they have dark and medium roast, but it's also shade grown. So it's one of the things about it, we wanting it to be organic coffee and shade grown, is that the United States is, I think as far as we know, the only Western country that allows coffee producers to have a certain percentage of mold in the coffee. When you go to Europe and you drink coffee, there is no mold in the coffee in Europe. So because they regulate it, they also regulate glyphosate in the farms, but we don't. So that's why we recommend the organic and the shade. So what I do is I get up and I make a cup, I have a French press. So I make my French press coffee, Kicking Horse. And we've got that on the PDF. There's also a list of different coffees you can try too. I put a tablespoon of the Kerrygold butter in there, and I also put in a tablespoon of whipping cream. And then I have a little frother, and I stick that in there, and I froth it all up. Now, my sweetener, now remember, I'm on intermittent fasting, and I've lost 16 pounds. I put 1 teaspoon of organic maple syrup in my coffee. I do.
Along with the butter,
It is allowed as an exchange. It is allowed as an exchange. 1 teaspoon, it's the only sweet I have all day, is that, besides Lily's chocolate, which has stevia in it, which you're allowed to have.
Come on, keep going, Carol.
It's all in the PDF. You're finding out what I eat every day now. But that coffee, with the half whipping cream, half butter, takes me all the way through to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm not hungry.
Yeah.
I may have a little, but it lasts like 2 minutes. The other thing is that hunger goes in waves. So it will go, but I have never been starving in an intermittent fast when we do it overnight like we're telling
She's
you.
a very good coach.
Yeah, she is. She coaches everybody through the cleanses, and you know, I got to tell you, it's okay to have your stomach be a little hungry sometimes. I think we get so, oh, I'm hungry, I gotta eat because I'm gonna go a little, you know, just go through it. Life is okay. Nothing's gonna kill you.
What about the headaches?
Headaches?
I
Well,
can eat a whole lot at a time, but I get headaches when
if you what?
I get headaches when I.
Well, you probably got some toxins.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good sign. If you're not eating and you're burning fat and you're getting symptoms, then you got toxins. It's pretty clear. So you should be tested. You're one of those.
So I'm on day 7 of the intermittent fasting, which is the feast day.
Yeah!
And, actually, like, woke up this morning and like I had to force myself to eat. I wasn't hungry at all. So it was really interesting. Just that, and it's true. Everything that Carol said is
Good.
very true. So I can reiterate that. But I had a question. What happens when you mess up?
Not much. Like, you know, you can cheat. Everybody
Start
cheats.
over again. I mean,
You know,
no big deal.
if you're in my house, Beth, how easy is it to cheat with my wife? She knows, huh?
No.
You can't do it. So Beth and I, we have this thing, right? No, just kidding.
She's gluten-free, but she has to have pretzels. So she doesn't like to eat pretzels, so she eats a few pretzels. Yeah, don't worry about it. I mean, I've messed up. There's sometimes I'm extremely hungry between 1 and 7, and it doesn't go away, and I go, okay, well, I'm just going to keep eating the whole time, and it's never stopped my weight from coming off. So I just go with it.
Yeah, I've already lost 5